Final topic of discussion, Mr. Chairman and board members, is in regards to the Alleghany Memorial Hospital request discussions. Just a couple items to note. I did speak with hospital management today. It is the intentions of the hospital board to hold a public forum. At this point, they do not have a set date, but it's my understanding that they're shooting for a goal at the end of this month, no later than the beginning of May. The date has not been set because they're trying to get a facilitator scheduled in order to facilitate the forum itself. And once they get that person scheduled, then they will actually be able to set a date. The second portion of this discussion, I did have a county commissioner request, excuse me, request that I somewhat go over in detail what it would take to bring this issue up for referendum. And so if the board will bear with me, I'm just following through with a request from the county commissioner. As you recall, I did provide that information in previous facts to all the commissioners, but I think the intent of this discussion is maybe to have this public discussion so everybody understands what it would actually take to have a referendum. A couple things. One is what I had provided to you board members is Bob Joyce from the School of Government back in about 2006 wrote a document that says what elections may be held in North Carolina. A lot of times citizens will ask this board to hold a referendum, let the people decide. But the reality is the only thing that this board can have referendums on is what the state of North Carolina state law allows them to do. And there are specific items that can be put on the ballot for referendum. And specifically, when you talk about taxes for hospital districts, it's covered under North Carolina General Statute 131E-45. And so when you go and look at that, look at those statutes, what these statutes really are talking about are hospital districts, okay? And what the statute anticipates is that the county is basically getting into the hospital business, almost to the point of administrating it. So you have to read all of the statutes in totality to understand what it would take to get it on referendum. The first step to get anything such as this on referendum is a hospital district has to be created. Okay? In order for a hospital district to be created, then I'm just going to read verbatim from the statute. The voters of an area may petition their county board of commissioners and the North Carolina Medical Care Commission for the creation of a hospital district. All of the area proposed to be included within a hospital district must be located within one county. The petition shall be signed by at least 500 voters of the area described in the petition. However, if the area has less than 1,100 voters, then the minimum number is 250. So the first step in order to get this on referendum is a hospital district would have to be created. The only way this board can move forward with the creation of a hospital district is a petition must be presented to you requesting that district be created. Excuse me. Once the district is created, it does allow for county commissioners to, a lot of this is taking into account larger counties. And so some counties may create a district that's only a portion of the county. And once that occurs, then the boards of commissioners have the ability, without a petition, to create additional districts. But in order to get that first district created, you have to have a petition from the voters of this county. The second issue, when you're going through and looking at once the petition is created and the county commissioners chose to proceed with it, then you actually still have to, the North Carolina Medical Care Commission shall give notice of a hearing on the creation of a hospital district. So the petition does come to the county commissioners. We go through our procedure, but that petition then is passed on to the North Carolina Medical Care Commission, in which that commission must hold a public hearing in order to proceed. And then my understanding is that commission, along with the county commissioners, would have to agree to create a hospital district. Once you go through that, then in essence, that's when General Statute 131E-45 would come into play. Excuse me, that reads, to the extent that the County Board of Commissioners may levy a tax for the financing, operation, equipment, and maintenance of any hospital operated by the district. So again, you gotta have a district before you can actually put it on referendum. And so, in essence, that's the technical law in regards to getting this issue onto a referendum. Once you created a district, then it does allow for the question to be put on the ballot. Now, in regards to timing, that's really just kind of getting into details on how or if you could put financing for a hospital on a referendum. There are other timing issues if you are attempting to get this on referendum that relate to the Board of Elections. Obviously, because of how one stop starts and how absentee ballots go, you must get this on the ballot within a certain, you must give notification to the Board of Elections within a certain time frame in order for them to legally get it onto the ballot. My last conversation with Kate Cosner, the Board of Elections Director, is that we're past the primary, obviously, as far as the timing. If this were to attempt to be put on the general election, then everything I just described, and also a couple other issues to get the question formed, would have to be accomplished by August 23rd. And that is the date that the Board of Elections gave to me, that everything would have to be accomplished and the question appropriately given to the Board of Elections for there to be enough time to get it on to the general election. So I'll stop right there. I haven't gone over all the details of it, but that's a general summary of what it would take to get this issue on a referendum.
Other questions or comments from you?
The only comment I got really goes back to the public forum. Did we convey to the hospital that it needs to be at a convenient time, to the public, maybe not during work hours and meeting sessions, to try to accommodate as many people in the community as possible?
Commissioner Goudreau, I think ultimately last meeting, I attempted to get the board in more of those discussions, and I sort of got the general feeling that you'd like to see them do it, but I don't think there was any direct direction, I don't recall, from the board. And I think this would be an appropriate time to have that conversation, but I don't recall that at the last.
I certainly think that's, appropriate. We're asking the public to get involved, and obviously, we need to, or they need to schedule meetings when the public can be involved. And, scheduling a meeting during work hours is, kind of counterproductive in my mind. And, yeah, that's the motion I'd certainly, or the direction I'd certainly like to go.
Well, I
Is,
think
strongly encourage it, and if we've got to direct it, I didn't know that we could actually direct them on what time to have a meeting.
I'd probably make a recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my recommendation.
Is there any other? I think it is a recommendation. Is there anything else that, since we're having this conversation as far as the public?
We've had these before, and it seems like the Sparta Auditorium is large enough to accommodate the numbers of individuals that might want to attend, and they can determine that. That's up to them. But that seems to be the place that we've had successful forums before.
And I would think too, Dr. Johnson, had some excellent points and some excellent questions, and I'm sure Kobe, wherever you went, will probably have them in the newspaper, and that's probably some items they needed to cover, as well as how does the state of Virginia and the people living in Grayson County are affected, how many employees are in Grayson County, what number of patients come from Grayson County. I think that's all things that need to be discussed. Because as far as I know, they've only put a request on Alleghany County Board of Commissioners and not Grayson County.
That is correct. And Commissioner Goodyear, I'm glad you brought that up, because that, I think ultimately what's happening is there's this 2 meetings in a row that I think there's questions being presented to this board, in which, it's my understanding, that's somewhat the point of this forum, is to answer these questions. One of the things that I would highly recommend, and I had somewhat a little bit of conversation with the CFO today about this, is that I'm not trying to preclude this board in any involvement that you choose to have in this process, but I do highly recommend that if someone has a series or list of questions that they think or should be answered, to try to get it to the hospital folks, whether it be to management or whatnot, prior to that meeting. I think if we were to get those questions, if the public would get the questions to management before the meetings, that may give them a better opportunity to see. I do know in my conversations, and again, I'm talking to one person, there's a whole board over there that's having these discussions on a regular basis, so this one person can't, relatively speak for the entire board until that board acts. I'm talking about the hospital board. But I do know, like, the quorum questions that are being asked, I do know, I've been asked that at least 4 or 5 times personally. I do know that they're looking to address those issues. What is their management role? What are they doing? What's the finances? I do know that they're looking to cover some financial issues in this forum. So I don't know, I'm throwing this out to the board for discussion. I'm not sure how we would arrange this, but I just think it would be prudent if somehow the questions could get to the hospital management, if you want to call it that, prior to this meeting, and that would enable them to be prepared for maybe what a lot of the questions would be. I do think they're going to attempt, at least from what I've heard, from the questions that were asked today, I think, I mean, don't hold me to this, but I think maybe 70% of it, I think they've got on their radar of somehow addressing it. Now, whether or not they address it to the citizen satisfaction or to this board satisfaction is another conversation.
We'd had a citizen, I think, that had requested the possibility of multiple meetings. If that might be something you'd want to speak with them, and to see if that might be a possibility, and even make those meetings a specific topic or whatever, but I think it'd be something to think about instead of one or the possibility of more. But I am pleased that they are going to have this forum.
So right now, what I've heard is that what I'm to convey to the hospital management and board is that the commissioner's request and highly recommends that they hold the forum at a convenient time for the public to attend, that the forum be held in a location that can handle larger crowds relatively with ease. And the third issue would be that they consider holding multiple meetings if deemed necessary after this next one. Is that, did I summarize that fairly well?
And they are going to give the public the opportunity to ask questions in this form. Is that correct? It's not going to be just a presentation.
Well, I think that may be a point to make.
Well, I mean, it needs to be where they take comments and discuss with the public, not just put on a presentation.
And I think that's why a good facilitator is important.
So you would recommend that this would be an interactive forum that allows for question and answering with the
Yes, I think very much so, and I think we should all attend it. Be there too. I mean, I'd be there, if all possible.
Other comments or questions?
That's a question.
No, sir.
No.
So I don't wanna end this discussion. Right now, I've got the fourth one to highly recommend it be interactive with the public for question and answering session.
Anything else? Does that complete your general business?
Mr. Chairman, I just got one other statement that